Did you know that there's a place in Pennsylvania that's been burning for over 60 years? Or that a river once sliced a mountain in half? How about the fact that most of Pennsylvania's lakes are completely fake? Well, the Keystone State is way more than cheesesteaks, steel mills, and Liberty Bells. So buckle up, because we're about to hit you with 50 of the wildest facts about Pennsylvania that you probably never knew. Fact 50. A 16-acre sea of boulders. Deep in the forest, there's a place where the trees just stop. In their place, a 16-acre slab of nothing but jumbled, ankle-breaking boulders. No dirt, no grass, just stones stretching endlessly across flat ground. Like a rock parking lot dropped from space. This is Hickory Run Boulder Field, and it was created when mile-thick glaciers dumped thousands of rocks here at the end of the Ice Age. The result is an alien environment so barren, NASA could use it to test Mars rovers. You're literally walking across ancient cargo left behind by melting ice giants. No wonder it looks like Earth glitched out. Fact 49. Rocks that ring like bells. There's a boulder field in Bucks County that's basically nature's percussion section. At Ringing Rocks Park, if you hit the stones with a hammer, they chime. Clear, bell-like tones that echo through the woods. The rocks are volcanic diabase. But here's the twist. Scientists don't fully understand why they ring. And if you take one home, it goes completely silent. Only when the boulders are together do they sing. People bring hammers just to jam on them, turning geology into a literal rock concert. It's weird, it's unexplained, and it sounds like a sci-fi subplot. Fact 48. The world's largest glacial pothole. Outside Scranton sits a hole so big it could fit a swimming pool. Or a delivery truck. It's called the Archibald Pothole, but calling it a pothole is wildly underselling it. This thing plunges 38 feet into solid bedrock and spans 42 feet across, making it the largest glacial pothole on Earth. Formed by glacial meltwater spinning stones in a violent whirlpool, it drilled straight through rock like a natural blender. Discovered by coal miners in 1884, it now sits as a park monument to Ice Age hydraulic chaos. Just don't compare it to a highway pothole. That's like calling a canyon a crack. Fact 47. Many deserts with cactus. Cactus in Pennsylvania. Sounds fake, but it's 100% real. In the state's southeast, you'll find rare serpentine barrens. Patches of greenish rock that weather into soil so toxic almost nothing can survive. But what does grow here looks straight out of the Southwest. Desert grasses, strange wildflowers, and legit prickly pear cactus. These metallic, sun-baked ecosystems are so harsh that forests can't take root, creating open terrain more Arizona than Appalachia. The name serpentine comes from the rock's green snake-like appearance, fitting for land that slithers out of place geographically. It's a total biome glitch. Fact 46. Most of Pennsylvania's lakes are completely fake. Surprise! Almost every lake you've ever seen in Pennsylvania is a man-made illusion. Famous spots like Raystown, Wallenpaupack, and Yakagini, all artificial. The state has virtually no natural lakes outside of its glaciated northern tier. The rest, built by humans in the 20th century, who dammed rivers to create scenic waterways. So next time you're kayaking or fishing in Pennsylvania, remember, you're floating on engineered geography. The land itself never formed lakes naturally here. We built our own. Fact 45. Pennsylvania has real beaches with waves. Pennsylvania is landlocked, right? Not exactly. The state has 76 miles of sandy shoreline on Lake Erie, including legit beaches with surfable waves. At Presque Isle State Park, you'll find a dune-covered peninsula jutting into the Great Lake like a natural breakwater, with lighthouses, volleyball courts, swimming bays, and wave action that feels like the ocean. You can literally watch the sunset over open water stretching to the horizon. From Pennsylvania. It's the only place in the state where the beach feels like coastal California. And it's not saltwater, it's freshwater from the 4th largest lake in North America. It's like someone hacked geography and installed an ocean. Fact 44. A Grand Canyon in PA. You don't need to fly west to see canyon country. In north-central Pennsylvania, Pine Creek Gorge cuts more than 1,400 feet deep into the Allegheny Plateau, creating the Grand Canyon of Pennsylvania. Over millions of years, Pine Creek carved this colossal scar through ancient rock. leaving behind sheer cliffs, roaring rapids, and overlooks that stretch for miles. Hike it, raft it, or just stare at it. Bald eagles circle above while the gorge unfolds below like a vertical wilderness. It's not as wide as Arizona's Grand Canyon, but it feels wild, like nature wanted to prove it could outdo itself on the East Coast. Fact 43. 22 waterfalls on one hike. One trail, 22 waterfalls. Yeah, really. At Ricketts Glen State Park, you'll go down into a mossy canyon where water cascades nonstop through a fantasy land of rock and spray. The tallest, Ganoga Falls, plunges 94 feet, taller than some Niagara sections. Each waterfall has a name, a personality, and a different kind of drop. Hikers zigzag between roaring curtains of water, stepping over roots and boulders, never going more than a few hundred feet before another waterfall explodes into view. It's like nature queued up a playlist of every type of waterfall it could think of and hit shuffle. If you love waterfalls, this trail will ruin you for every other hike. Fact 42. A river slices a mountain in half. Most rivers go around mountains. The Delaware River said, nah, and went through one. At the Delaware Water Gap, the river carved a 1,200-foot deep notch straight through the Kittanning Ridge, slicing a clean canyon between Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Today, Interstate 80 slips through it like a thread in a needle. But look up, those vertical rock walls were bored out by nothing but water and time. It's one of the clearest cases on Earth of a river slicing clean through a mountain chain. Locals used to say it looked like a giant took an axe to the ridge. Honestly, not far off. Fact 41. Pennsylvania's mountains are lying to you. Think you're climbing a mountain in Pennsylvania? Not quite. Most of the state's mountains, including the Poconos and parts of the Alleghenies, are actually eroded plateaus. They didn't rise up, they got carved down. Rivers sliced valleys through ancient uplifted flatlands, leaving behind ridges that look like mountains but aren't. That's why so many summits in Pennsylvania feel weirdly flat on top. You can drive along a ridge for miles without realizing you're 2,000 feet above sea level, until the trees part and reveal a valley drop-off that feels like a geography jump scare. They're not mountains, they're leftovers from a plateau war. Fact 40. The ghost of Himalayan peaks. The ridges you see in Pennsylvania today, they used to rival Mount Everest. Over 300 million years ago, Africa slammed into North America, crumbling the Earth's crust into peaks as tall as the Himalayas. These monsters towered 25,000 feet high, long before the dinosaurs ever walked the planet. But after hundreds of millions of years of erosion, all that's left are the Appalachians, gentle tree-covered ridgelines that barely hint at their wild past. Every Pennsylvania ridge is a ghost of a mountain that once scraped the sky. Fact 39. Pennsylvania was once a swampy jungle on the equator. Coal country used to be beach property. 350 million years ago, Pennsylvania sat near the equator, covered in steamy rainforests, swampy coastlines, and coral reefs. Giant ferns and tree-sized mosses thrived in the tropical heat, and shallow seas shimmered just offshore. It looked more like the Amazon than the Appalachians. All that lush jungle eventually got buried, compressed, and turned into the state's coal deposits. So, every anthracite lump is fossilized tropical vegetation. The same ground that freezes in winter once cooked under equatorial sun. Pennsylvania's energy industry? It runs on the ashes of a prehistoric jungle. Fact 38. A whole chapter of Earth's history is named after Pennsylvania. You've heard of Jurassic and Cretaceous, but there's a geologic era literally named after Pennsylvania. It's called the Pennsylvanian period, 323 to 299 million years ago, and it earned its name because the state's rock layers were so rich and well preserved, geologists used them as the global standard. These layers include the thick coal beds of northeastern Pennsylvania, especially anthracite, a nearly pure form of carbon that burns so hot it glows blue. When geologists around the world study that time in Earth's history, they're literally using Pennsylvania's rocks as the reference point. The state didn't just shape America, it helped shape Earth's timeline. Fact 37. The river older than mountains. The Susquehanna River is one of the oldest rivers on Earth, so ancient it predates the Appalachian Mountains. When the mountains started rising, the Susquehanna was already there, and it refused to move. Instead of flowing around the rising peaks, it carved straight through them, creating massive water gaps. This makes it a superimposed river, one that slices through land like a buzzsaw, ignoring what gets in the way. So when you see the Susquehanna cutting through cliffs, you're not seeing erosion. You're seeing a river that outlived mountains and saw the world before they existed. Fact 36. America's longest river you can't navigate. The Susquehanna River stretches 444 miles, making it the longest unnavigable river in the continental US. That's right, it's wide, long, and completely useless for boats. It's way too shallow, scattered with boulders, and inconsistent in depth. In the 1800s, engineers had to build entire canal systems around it just to move goods. Even now, you won't find commercial traffic. No steamboats, no barges, just water. Wild, rocky, and untamed. It's a major river that acts like a rebellious stream. The Susquehanna may look calm from above, but try sailing it, and you'll meet a 400-mile gauntlet of nope. Fact 35. Pennsylvania sends rain to 3 different seas. Drop rain anywhere in Pennsylvania, and it could end up in 3 totally different oceans. This is the only place east of the Mississippi where a triple continental divide exists. Rainfall in the east flows into the Delaware River, headed for the Atlantic. The west drains into the Ohio River, eventually reaching the Gulf. But the northwest corner, it flows into Lake Erie, then plunges over Niagara Falls and out through the St. Lawrence Seaway. 1 state, 3 ocean routes. 1 drop of water might pass Manhattan. Another could reach New Orleans. Another could swirl through the Great Lakes. It's the kind of hydrologic chaos that breaks globes. Fact 34. A river that flows uphill. Sort of. Most rivers in the US flow south. The Monongahela, it goes north. Starting in West Virginia, it travels upward on the map into Pennsylvania, merging with the southbound Allegheny River in Pittsburgh to create the Ohio River, which flows west. It's one of the few major rivers in North America that flows north, defying what most people assume rivers do. Of course, rivers follow gravity, not compass directions, but that doesn't make it any less weird. At Pittsburgh, you literally have a northbound river and a southbound river crashing into each other to form a westbound river. It's a directional train wreck in liquid form. Fact 33. A mile-wide river you can almost walk across. The Susquehanna River looks massive from a distance, a mile wide in some places, but in late summer, you can walk across it. Seriously, it gets so shallow you can hop along exposed rocks or wade across without ever needing to swim. It's both impressively wide and embarrassingly shallow, the river equivalent of a mile-long puddle. Back in the 1770s, British warships refused to sail up it, afraid they'd run aground in a river barely deep enough for canoes. From shore, it looks huge. From inside it, it's just a wading pool with attitude. Hydrologically, it's trolling us. Fact 32. Pennsylvania has enough streams to circle the Earth 3.5 times. Pennsylvania is secretly one of the wettest states in America, not by rainfall, but by stream mileage. With 86,000 miles of running water, it ranks second only to Alaska in total river and stream length. That's enough water to wrap around the planet 3.5 times. No matter where you are in Pennsylvania, you're never far from flowing water. Rivers, creeks, trickles, falls, or trout-stocked mountain brooks. It's like someone crumpled a road map and poured a gallon of water on top. This maze of streams is why it always feels damp, why the forests thrive, and why fishermen treat it like holy ground. Fact 31. A lake that looks like it's boiling, but isn't. In south-central Pennsylvania, there's a lake that never sits still. It constantly bubbles and churns, even on the coldest days. It's not hot, it just looks like it's boiling. Welcome to Children's Lake, more famously known as Boiling Springs. Cold spring water surges up from the lake bed with so much force it creates a constant roil of ripples and bubbles on the surface. On frosty mornings, steam rises from the lake like a cauldron, making it look like it's cooking from below. But it's just cold water, pushing hard from underground, turning this peaceful lake into a natural jacuzzi powered by geology. Fact 30. Pennsylvania has over 1,100 hidden caves under your feet. Beneath Pennsylvania's rolling hills lies an underground labyrinth of over 1,100 known caves. These passageways were carved over millions of years as acidic water dissolved soft limestone, leaving behind tunnels, domes, and crawl spaces, some plunging miles deep. The Harlansburg Cave, one of the longest in the state, stretches over 4.5 miles, and explorers are still discovering new passages. The whole limestone belt is basically Swiss cheese geology, full of sinkholes, chambers, and secret passageways. Some caves are open to tourists. Others are kept hush-hush by spelunkers who treat them like treasure maps. Under Pennsylvania's forests and farmlands is an entirely separate world. Muddy, silent, and mostly unexplored. Fact 29. The cave you can boat through. Pennsylvania doesn't just have caves. It has some of the weirdest ones in America. In Center County, Penn's Cave lets you explore entirely by boat. The only all-water cavern tour in the US. You float through towering chambers under a ceiling dripping with stone. No walking required. Then there's Laurel Caverns in Fayette County, carved into sandstone instead of the usual limestone, making it one of the largest sandstone cave systems on Earth. The rooms are so wide, they've hosted everything from underground rappelling to mini golf tournaments. Yeah, underground mini golf. Pennsylvania's caves are absolutely unhinged. Fact 28. The ice mine that defies seasons. Here's a cave that acts like it's stuck in reverse. In summer, the Coudersport ice mine begins producing thick ice formations, while the rest of Pennsylvania swelters in 85-degree heat. But in winter, the ice melts. It's completely backward. The cave is 40 feet deep and naturally channels cold air down into its chamber during hot months, freezing any moisture it touches. In winter, warmer outside air flows in and the ice disappears. The physics involve air density, pressure zones, and underground convection, but the vibes? Straight up magic. The ice mine has been baffling visitors since 1894. It's like nature installed a refrigerator and then flipped the thermostat upside down. Fact 27. Firefly Light Show. Every June, Allegheny National Forest turns into a living galaxy. That's when synchronous fireflies, one of the rarest insect phenomena on Earth, begin flashing in perfect unison, thousands at a time. Picture a forest blinking like Christmas lights, but coordinated like a symphony. Only a few places in the world experience this: Pennsylvania, Tennessee, and parts of Southeast Asia. Scientists still don't fully understand how they sync. There's no leader, no pattern, no rehearsal, just pure luminous rhythm. The effect is so absurd it sparked an annual Firefly Festival, attracting people from across the country. For 2 weeks, the woods pulse like they're alive. Fact 26. Milky Way so bright it casts shadows. Most people in the US have never seen a truly dark night sky. But in northern Pennsylvania, at Cherry Springs State Park, you can stand under the Milky Way so bright it can literally cast shadows. No streetlights, no city glow. Just stars, thousands of them, painting the sky in detail most humans will never witness. It's one of the darkest places east of the Mississippi and an official international dark sky park. On moonless nights, the galaxy's glow lights up the ground. You can see meteor showers, satellites, even the edge of our galaxy with your naked eye. It's not stargazing, it's damn near time travel. Fact 25. Highway of Hawks. Every fall, 20,000 plus hawks, falcons, and eagles pour through the skies of Pennsylvania, riding the Appalachian ridges like invisible conveyor belts. This isn't a few birds overhead, it's clouds of raptors, forming spiraling kettles of broad-winged hawks that rise on thermal winds like a cyclone made of wings. This exact spot, Hawk Mountain, became the world's first bird of prey sanctuary in 1934, after mass shootings nearly wiped them out. Today, it's a migration superhighway. On the right day, you'll see dozens of species swirling waves across the horizon. It's like watching the sky migrate, and it only happens here once a year. Fact 24. Pennsylvania has wild elk. Big ones, loud ones. Pennsylvania has real wild elk, and not just a few. Over 1,400 elk roam freely across north-central Pennsylvania, making it the largest free-ranging herd in the Northeast. These aren't zoo animals. They're massive, 700-pound bulls that lock antlers in forest clearings during rutting season. Reintroduced a century ago after going extinct locally, Elk are now thriving again in places like Benezet, where fall mornings echo with prehistoric-sounding challenges. Forget Yellowstone, you can hear the screams of battling elk from a foggy Appalachian valley. And yes, it feels like a nature documentary is unfolding in your backyard. Fact 23, giant eastern bears. Think black bears are cute and cuddly? Think again. Pennsylvania produces some of the heaviest wild black bears on Earth. Multiple individuals have tipped the scales at over 800 pounds, with the state record at an absurd 880 pounds. That's grizzly size. That's Siberian tiger size. It's all thanks to lush habitat and strict wildlife management. In the Poconos, you might find tracks the size of dinner plates and hear the crunch of brush under a 700-pound blur. Fact 22, snot otters in the streams. Under Pennsylvania's clean mountain streams lives a creature called the eastern hellbender, a slimy, wrinkled, 2-foot-long salamander nicknamed snot otter, and Allegheny alligator. With frilly gills, prehistoric looks, and zero chill, it looks like a biology experiment gone wrong. But this amphibian is totally harmless and critically important. It only survives in pristine rivers, making it a living test of water quality. Hellbenders are survivors from the age of dinosaurs, and in 2019, they became Pennsylvania's official state amphibian. They don't bite, they don't blink, they just lurk under rocks like ancient ghosts, silently reminding us that evolution sometimes gets weird and sticks with it. Fact 21, carnivorous plants in PA. In Pennsylvania's remote mountain bogs, plants eat meat. Really? The state's acidic wetlands, places like Black Moshannon and Tannersville Cranberry Bog, are home to wild sundews and purple pitcher plants that trap and digest insects to survive nutrient-starved soil. Sundews use sticky tentacles to snare gnats. Pitcher plants form green urns and drown ants and flies. These plants are full-blown predators evolved to survive in conditions so harsh that normal flora gives up. It's Pennsylvania's own tiny insect-eating jungle, tucked away in a frost-covered forest. And no, they don't eat people, we think. Fact 20, where ducks walk on fish. At Pymatuning Spillway, the laws of nature take a lunch break. There, ducks don't swim, they walk across the backs of fish. Massive schools of carp pack the surface so tightly that birds literally waddle across them, chasing chunks of bread tossed by tourists. It looks fake, it looks photoshopped, but it's real. Locals call it where the ducks walk on the fish, and it's not a metaphor. Hundreds of fish surge to the surface, mouths open, forming a living platform. The food chain collapses into a stacked feeding frenzy, with ducks using carp as stepping stones. It's one of Pennsylvania's strangest viral spectacles, a feeding frenzy that turned into a tourist landmark. Fact 19, Great Shipwrecks, Great Lake. Lake Erie may look calm, but it hides a graveyard of around 277 wrecked ghost ships under its surface. Dozens of them, schooners, tugboats, steamboats, sit eerily intact on the lake bed, preserved in the ice-cold freshwater off Pennsylvania's coastline. The water is so cold, wood doesn't rot. Masts still rise, cabins remain sealed. Some vessels are from the 1800s, frozen at the moment they sank. The shallow depth and sudden storms earned Lake Erie the nickname Graveyard of Ships, and divers near Presque Isle explore them like underwater museums. Pennsylvania claims a stretch of this lake that's not just historic, it's haunted by maritime time capsules waiting just below the waves. Fact 18, 5 feet of snow in 2 days. In December 2017, Erie, Pennsylvania got absolutely buried alive. A lake-effect snowstorm parked itself over the city and dumped a record-shattering 65.5 inches of snow in just 48 hours. That's over 5 feet, more than most towns get in an entire winter. Streets vanished, cars became snowdrifts, residents couldn't open their doors. It's one of the heaviest 2-day snowfalls in US history. How? Arctic air crossed the warm waters of Lake Erie, picked up moisture, and dropped it like a snow bomb. Erie became a blizzard war zone where snowplows needed backup. It was Buffalo-level snowfall times 2. A reminder that the Great Lakes can go full berserker with almost no warning. Fact 17, Siberian cold in PA. Think Pennsylvania winters are just chilly? Smethport in January 1904 reached an outrageous -42 degrees Fahrenheit, colder than Siberia. At that temperature, your breath freezes midair. Trees exploded from the pressure of frozen sap. Railroad tracks cracked apart. Just stepping outside without protection could mean frostbite in minutes. The town earned the nickname the Icebox of Pennsylvania, and that record still stands untouched more than a century later. It's not just cold, it's survival mode. Nature stops playing nice. There's a level of winter where physics start acting weird, and Smethport hit it hard. Fact 16. Tornado Alley in Pennsylvania? On May 31st, 1985, Pennsylvania looked like Oklahoma on steroids. That day, 21 tornadoes touched down in the state, including a monstrous EF4 twister with 200+ mile-per-hour winds that tore through Albion like a buzzsaw. Homes were vaporized. Steel bridges were twisted like paperclips. Trees were stripped of bark. Cars were hurled through the air. The EF4 rating means near total destruction, and Pennsylvania rarely sees storms like this, which made it even more terrifying. For one night, the state became a real-life tornado alley. It's a brutal reminder that you don't need to be in Kansas to see the sky split open. Fact 15. A hurricane's inland tsunami. Hurricane Agnes set on top of Pennsylvania and refused to leave. In June 1972, the storm's remnants stalled over the state, unleashing a wild flood. The Susquehanna River at Wilkes-Barre crested over 41 feet, smashing levees and submerging entire towns. Over 68,000 homes and 3,000 businesses were destroyed, with more than 220,000 people left homeless. Houses floated like boats. Streets vanished. The governor called it the greatest disaster in Pennsylvania history, with damage exceeding $2 billion. All from a dying storm with no coastline in sight. Agnes proved that when a tropical cyclone camps out over the mountains, it turns rivers into tsunamis, and your town into an inland Atlantis. Fact 14. Dino tracks at Gettysburg. At Gettysburg, soldiers once marched over dinosaur tracks. No joke. Embedded in the battlefields are fossilized footprints from 200 million years ago, left by three-toed dinosaurs in the late Triassic. Some are mounted on bridges. Others hide in plain sight under your feet. Even Valley Forge trails contain preserved dino tracks, discovered when hikers noticed odd patterns in the stone. Imagine stepping where both Union troops and raptor-like creatures once walked. It's a time warp of American history and prehistoric life, layered in the same soil. Fact 13. Pennsylvania cut down its entire forest, then brought it back. By 1900, Pennsylvania had nearly deforested itself into oblivion. The state's once endless old-growth forests were reduced from over 90% to barely 32%, obliterated by industrial logging. Giants like the 11-foot wide Longfellow pine, towering over 200 feet tall, were sawed down, leaving the land naked and eroding. But here's the twist. The forest came back. Today, about 60% of the state is forested again, mostly from natural regeneration. In Cook Forest, survivors of the massacre still stand. 500-year-old hemlocks, 180-foot pines. Pennsylvania lost its lungs and somehow grew them back. Fact 12. First walkers on land. Pennsylvania rocks contain the fossilized footprints of evolution itself. At Red Hill, paleontologists discovered Hynerpeton, a 360 million-year-old tetrapod, a bizarre half-fish, half-amphibian that was literally learning to walk. With both gills and primitive lungs, fins and proto-limbs, it represents the moment vertebrates left water for land. This was the evolutionary leap that made forests, dinosaurs, mammals, even humans possible. And it happened in what is now rural Pennsylvania. Think about that. A backroad outcrop in the middle of the state preserved the greatest plot twist in biological history: the day fins became feet. Fact 11. Ancient rock carvings in the river. The Susquehanna River guards an ancient secret that only surfaces when water levels drop. Scattered across submerged rocks near Safe Harbor, you'll find Native American petroglyphs, intricate carvings of turtles, snakes, bear paws, human figures, and mysterious symbols whose meanings are still debated. They were chiseled into solid stone, likely holding deep spiritual or cultural meaning. The river reveals them only during droughts, like an art gallery that opens by invitation from nature. Some carvings are centuries or millennia old, making them Pennsylvania's oldest surviving art, and one of its most elusive. Fact 10. Gravity Hill, where up is down. There's a hill in Pennsylvania where gravity seems broken. Near Bedford, park your car in neutral and it'll slowly roll uphill. No motor, no push, just up. Water in ditches even flows backwards. Welcome to Gravity Hill, where optical illusion hijacks your brain. The surrounding terrain fools your eyes so completely that downhill looks like uphill. And no matter how much you know it's a trick, it still feels like you're defying physics. Visitors come from all over just to experience their car climbing what looks like an incline. It's a roadside mind bender where reality flips, and even Newton would need a double take. Fact 9. Lake Erie's ice tsunami. In 2019, Pennsylvania got hit by a tsunami made of ice. On Lake Erie's shore, 70-mile-per-hour winds shoved giant slabs of frozen water inland, forming 30-foot walls of crushing, grinding ice. It wasn't a scene from the Arctic, it was Erie County. These events are called ice shoves, and they're rare, slow-motion natural disasters. When wind drives surface ice to shore with enough force, it creates an unstoppable, splintering wall that bulldozes everything in its path. One moment, you're on a peaceful lakefront. The next, you're facing a glacier on fast forward. Fact 8. More bears than people. Almost. Forest County, PA feels like a forgotten wilderness, because it practically is. With just 6,700 people in 430 square miles, it's so empty that black bears might outnumber humans. You can drive for hours through thick forest without seeing a single house. No towns, no traffic, just endless trees with the occasional moose-sized elk. It's the least densely populated county in Pennsylvania, and the 5th most populated state in the country. The contrast is wild. This is one of the few places where nature wins, where wildlife is the default, and people are just passing through. Fact 7. Tides in Pennsylvania. How does a landlocked city experience ocean tides? Philadelphia sits over 100 miles from the Atlantic, yet the Delaware River's 130-mile tide influence extends to Trenton, meaning Pennsylvania's southeast border rises and falls roughly 6 feet twice daily following lunar gravitational pull. Ships docked in Philadelphia bob like coastal vessels. Mudflats appear at low tides as they do at beaches. Pennsylvania even maintains tidal marshes supporting saltwater adapted species. The Atlantic's reach extends surprisingly far inland through the Delaware, bringing maritime rhythms to Pennsylvania. So yes, landlocked doesn't always mean tide-free. Fact 6. Rattlesnakes in the rocks. That dry buzzing sound in the rocks might not be a cicada. Pennsylvania is home to timber rattlesnakes, one of the few venomous snakes in the Northeast. Growing up to 5 feet long, they lurk on sun-warmed cliffs in the Alleghenies and Poconos, usually minding their business, but always watching. Early militias even featured them on their flags. The iconic "Don't Tread on Me" snake is a local. Today, most hikers never see one, but just knowing they're out there gives Pennsylvania trails a slightly more wild vibe. Quiet, camouflaged, and just scary enough to make you tread lightly. Fact 5. A perfect arc border. Most borders follow rivers or ridges. Not this one. Pennsylvania's border with Delaware contains a perfect 12-mile radius arc, created by colonial land grants in the 1600s. The charter gave Delaware all land within 12 miles of Newcastle, so surveyors just drew a literal circle and it stuck. Today, that curve cuts through rivers, neighborhoods, and property lines with mathematical precision, making it one of the only geometric borders in America. It's a bizarre bit of cartography where ancient compass work became permanent geography, and the only time in US history a state border was decided by drawing a circle. Fact 4. Pennsylvania's abandoned turnpike. Want to bike through a forgotten interstate? You can, in the eerie remains of the old Pennsylvania Turnpike. 13 miles of abandoned 4-lane highway, complete with 2-mile-long pitch-black tunnels through mountains. Rerouted in the 1960s, this stretch was left to rot. Today, it's a post-apocalyptic experience, crumbling pavement, graffiti-covered walls, and silence so thick it rings in your ears. Without a flashlight, those tunnels become total darkness. No lights, no exits, no sound, but dripping water and your own breath. It's a place where America's highway dream became a ghost, and hikers now chase the haunting. Fact 3. The bridge destroyed by a tornado. The Kinzua Bridge once held the record as the world's longest railway viaduct, until 2003, when a freak F1 tornado tore it apart like toy blocks. Winds over 90 miles per hour targeted its eastern anchors, installed in 1882, and ripped 11 of 20 massive towers from their footings, collapsing half the bridge into a gorge below. The wreckage still lies there, twisted and rusting. What's left is surreal. The bridge extends out and just ends midair like a stairway to nowhere. Engineers now call it a lesson in weak links. Today, it's a skywalk and ruin in one, a museum of metal carnage. Fact 2. America's deadliest flood. May 31st, 1889. Johnstown, Pennsylvania experienced what happens when 20 million tons of water break free from a failing dam. The South Fork Dam, poorly maintained by wealthy industrialists using the reservoir for recreation, collapsed after days of heavy rain. The resulting 40-feet-high wave carried the force of Niagara Falls compressed into 36 minutes. It obliterated Johnstown in a churning mass of water, mud, debris, and barbed wire from destroyed factories. The death toll reached 2,209 people, with victims found as far as Cincinnati, 350 miles downstream. Some areas saw water reach 70 feet above normal river level, high enough to submerge 7-story buildings. Fact 1. The town that's been on fire for 60 years. Have you ever seen the horror movie Silent Hill? Well, it's kind of based on a true story. Centralia, Pennsylvania has been burning since 1962, and experts say it could continue for another century. How did this happen? Well, an underground coal mine fire ignited under the town and spread through enormous anthracite seams, proving impossible to extinguish despite multiple attempts. 6 decades later, it still burns. The ground is hot to the touch in some places. Smoke rises from cracks in what's left of the pavement. Highway Route 61 had to be permanently rerouted when the road buckled and began smoking from underground heat. The federal government evacuated nearly everyone and demolished most buildings, leaving Centralia as a modern ghost town, with only a handful of residents refusing to leave. Hollywood saw the eeriness in the situation as Centralia inspired the horror film Silent Hill, and represents something almost incomprehensible. An American town sitting on top of an inferno that's been burning longer than most residents have been alive, with no end in sight. What about 50 Kentucky geography facts that break your brain?